Sellers don't want to put their house on the market because they think it's going to sit there forever. Buyers don't want to even go look at a property because they think they can't afford it. Just trying to get people's minds wrapped around that. It's turned people who have not even thought about being in the market to buyers and sellers.
The majority of people trade time for money in the hopes of building wealth. I'm here to tell you that the traditional methods don't cut it anymore. Welcome to the Passive Income Power Podcast. My name is Doug Earthman. My partner Mickey Bernstein and I are going to dive deep into the power that passive income can have on your quality of life. We're going to discuss alternative assets, strategies, and insights through interviews with the very people who have found freedom through their power. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Passive Income Power Podcast. All right. Thanks for tuning in to the Passive Income Power Podcast. My name is Doug Earthman.
And I'm Mickey Bernstein.
And we've got Aaron Payne of Payne Property Group on today's episode. Aaron is a long time friend of mine. We met in high school around 10th grade. I was new to Ridgeway High School, Memphis, Tennessee, and we hit it off, and we were very close friends for a long time. And per usual comes career, family, and eventually geographical distance between us, and it gets real easy to get disconnected and fall out of touch. We did, however, recently reconnect over our passion for real estate and passive income. Aaron lives outside of Nashville, Tennessee. He works in the world of real estate as a residential broker. He was kind enough to have me on his YouTube channel not too long ago and interview me, and I thought he'd be a perfect guest for today's Passive Income Power Podcast. So welcome, Aaron.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Doug, man. Thank you, and thank you again for doing the YouTube video, man. It was a blast. Tons and tons of great information. I definitely learned a lot, so I really appreciate that.
I appreciate it. Before we get started, though, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and tell us about yourself.
Yeah. Again, my name's Aaron Payne. I have spent the last 5 years going into my sixth year in residential real estate in the Nashville area. Man, I love every minute of it. I do mostly end user, owner occupied property, but I do have several investors that I work with, whether it be on flip properties, rental properties. Man, I've got a passion for it. I love it. So I'm excited to talk with you guys about what I do.
And Aaron, I want to thank you for being with us tonight and taking your time and sharing your knowledge with our audience. But would you kind of tell us about your career path and what led you into real estate? What's your story?
Yeah. Prior to getting into real estate, man, I spent 7 years in the insurance world and doing property and casualty insurance. I kind of fell into that. I had an uncle that ran an agency, and he told me to go get my license, and I wasn't sure about sales. But man, I got a taste of it, and I really I wasn't in love with the insurance side of it, but I did fall in love with helping people. And so over those 7 years, I grew into doing a little bit of commercial toward the end, but my true passion was really helping residential buyers to acquire insurance to help deals get done. And so in those 7 years, I was always, I was working very closely. I had a great mentor. The CEO of our company, directly mentored me. And so I got a really great opportunity to learn how to build relationships. We did what we called milk routing, so I'd go visit, people like myself. I'd go visit realtors and lenders and take them out to lunch or take them some goodies and just build those relationships with them so that I could build a stable book of business coming into my office. What I found doing that, though, was, it was 50 to 60 transactions every month. And because of the quantity that I had to do to produce, I wasn't able to really go deep with people. But I was building these relationships with realtors and lenders and saw, what they got to do with a smaller number of people. And the money helps because it balances everything out, but I really, really get to dig in and help families, get to know them a lot better, but get to help them, achieve their goals. And I get to really focus on them for, we know closings, are 30 to 45 days, some 60, 90 days. But that gives me so much time to really dig in with them, get to know them, what their needs are, what their pain points are, and really know that I'm helping somebody achieve their goal. So anyway, in the insurance world, I was working with a buddy of mine, Jared Benoit, and he kind of encouraged me to continue to go get my license and everything. And so he ended up being my mentor with the brokerage that we were both at before. And really enjoyed working with him. I learned a ton. And fast forward 4.5 years, we start talks of opening up a brokerage together. And so he went and got his broker's license. I still wasn't quite ready for that yet. And that's something I'll eventually work on when we're ready to open a second office. But he brought me in to be a training agent. He knew that he had trained me, that I got good quality training, and that I was going to, provide that same thing for our agents that are coming in. So he recruited me in to start this brokerage with him. We've now hired on 20 agents at this point. A lot of them newer agents. And really what our brokerage focus is on the marginalized. So, there's tons of access especially for minority groups out there to funds to be able to purchase houses and to be able to build some equity and build a future. But there's not a lot of education on that out there. There aren't a lot of realtors that, try to focus in those areas because a lot of them are first-time home buyer, low-income, scenarios. And so we really wanted to focus on that and not only to help these people, help these groups buy homes, but to hopefully, and we've seen success in it. We've got a few agents that have come in from just deals that we've done. They were our clients. Now they're agents because they see the value in what we do. But that's part of what we want to do is raise up realtors in these groups to build that community up and hopefully see those numbers jump. If you look at any of the economic statistics on home ownership between different racial groups and ethnicities, it's pretty dramatic when you go from the white American Caucasian to any other subgroup after that. So that we really enjoy doing that. We love the people that we work with. So it's been a blast. It's been a blessing for sure.
That's awesome, man. It's your passion to help people. That is something that we align a lot with, and our goal with our company is to really help people that don't think that they have the funds or the access to real estate investment opportunities, and that's what we're trying to help people understand that you may actually have investable funds, or and we can provide those investment opportunities to them. So it's all about relationships and helping people. And I wanted to point out also how you started is similar to me in the sales sense. My first job out of college was as a mortgage loan originator in 2010, which was
I don't even think we talked about that. Yeah, that's
not a fun time to be a mortgage loan originator.
Yeah.
I lasted 1 year, and it was a lot of cold calls, and like you said, it was like you're talking to a lot of people, but you're not going deep with them.
Right. And
it gave me a lot of sales experience, but it didn't leave me with much fulfillment.
Yeah.
It got a lot of angry people yelling obscene things through the phone at me. Which gives you some thick skin, and
it definitely does.
It really shapes you as a person having to go through that. But it also made me realize that I wanted to actually form relationships with people and figure out how I can really help them. Yeah. So I really align with your story a lot.
Yeah.
So as far as your clients go, you said that y'all are focused on helping people tap into programs that and funds that are available. How do you go about finding the right property to match them with, along with these programs?
Yeah, so it all starts with qualification, qualifying the buyer to really a specific budget, a specific scenario, trying to get creative with the loan type or even the structuring of the deal altogether to try to put them in the most powerful buying position that they can be in. So once we've dug in deep and we find the appropriate scenario, type of lending and everything for them, then we hit it hard to find the absolute right properties for them. I think most, especially in the last few years, most realtors are kind of part-time realtors, and they want to set up just a quick search alert, and that's kind of where they stop. Hey, you weed through all this stuff and find a property, send it to me, and we'll help negotiate the deal. Now, while there are plenty of scenarios where that is appropriate, just maybe the person doesn't have an area locked down, they don't have a budget locked down, we start pretty broad. But once we are able to dig in, then I'm making sure that I'm going through daily lists of hot properties on the market, stuff that's just listed, going to different Facebook groups, different wholesaling groups and stuff like that to try to find the right properties that may be off market. I think that's the key. We're currently in a situation when this is being recorded where there are people that sellers don't want to put their house on the market because they think it's going to sit there forever. Buyers don't want to even go look at a property because they think they can't afford it. And just trying to get people's minds wrapped around that it has turned non-buyer. It's turned people who have not even thought about being in the market to buyers and sellers.
I'm glad you said that. Aaron, may I call you Aaron?
Yeah, you can call me whatever you want. Yeah.
My little boy next door is named Aaron. I call him Aaron, and he just looks at me. I know everybody's seen that comedy sketch.
Oh yeah.
Just saying that, I really like talking about putting the patient. Well, I say patient because I used to be a dentist for 40 years, and I always put the patient's goals first. And now we're switching to real estate, and I think, both on your side of the fence and ours, we need to put the customer's goals first. And it sounds like you're doing that, and that's great. And I want to say something about something else you said, that a lot of people can't see that they can afford it or can't figure out how to navigate it and make it happen. And I just see a world full of opportunity. When people say houses are too expensive or interest rates are too high or whatever it is, I know there's always a way. You just have to try, be willing to fail, and try again.
Right.
And so with that in mind, I've got a number of investment properties, and I'm just curious how many of your clients are looking to purchase an investment property, and how many are buying their first investment property?
Yeah. So I mean, it really depends on the season. Probably right now, probably a quarter, maybe a fifth of my clients are actively looking for investment properties. I'm actually working with a guy now. We're selling an investment property that we bought 2 years ago. He was able to flip it around a little bit. He used it as an Airbnb, and now we've got it on the market to hopefully take that one door and go turn it into 3 or 4. Most of the current buyers that I have that are looking at investment property, it's not their first investment. But I do have 2 right now that are actively looking for their first investment. And so that process, it's a longer process with them to get them more in a business mindset. And stop thinking less about what the property looks like, what needs to be changed, that sort of stuff, and really get them into the mindset of cash flow or equity down the road.
With bigger pockets and, all of these, social media accounts that have really been exposing the greatness of investment properties. It seems like through COVID and post-COVID, a lot of people have dipped their toes into real estate investments, especially the BRRRR method, and trying to figure out alternative ways to create passive income.
Yeah.
It seems like Nashville is a pretty hot market just in general for everything.
Yeah.
How do you stay with the latest market trends or changes in the industry, and especially right now with the economic climate? Like how do you keep tabs? How do you guide your buyers?
Yeah. I mean, I think first things first, it comes with being in the business every day, right? I mean, you've got to have, there's nothing that can beat out street knowledge, and street knowledge comes from doing it every day, from being in it every day. So that's first and foremost. And that kind of goes back to something I said earlier. We had, over the last few years, had a lot of real estate agents jump into the game because of how hot the market was. All you had to do a year ago was list a freaking house on the MLS, and dude, it was sold in a day or two. Multiple offers, $60,000 over asking, which is, it's crazy. But now we're seeing, with the economic change that we're seeing a lot of those people jump ship. We're seeing numbers go down because it's not. They're still stuck in that mindset of, man, this is going to be easy money. What is it called? Mailbox money. But it's just not the case anymore. So first and foremost, just being in the business every day, day in and day out. There's a lot of work also that goes into, looking at market trends within the MLS, running sometimes daily reports. The market changes every day. And so if you're really not looking at what could be potentially changing the market, not just looking at statistics, right? Statistics are days, weeks, months old, right? And for most MLSs around the country, by the time you get the data, everything's already shifted again, right? So you're working off of old data. And so, being connected with other realtors in the area, being connected with lenders in the area, being connected with the some of the NAR statistics and stuff, and just reading articles. Like it doesn't, I think people don't want to put the work in to read something on the business that they're in, but man, how easy is it to be knowledgeable in your business when somebody's already done all the work for you? Somebody's already done the research. Just go read an article or two, watch a video, YouTube, podcast.
Let me ask you this, Aaron, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it seems like interest rates are up and houses are still up, maybe down a little bit, but they're still up. And is this the right time for people to buy in this market? And what kind of checklist would you give them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I am a firm believer that if you are waiting to buy, you're already losing money, right? Well, and I'm speaking from the Nashville market. We've kind of already talked about that. It's a hot market, but generally across the U.S., we're still seeing the same trends, right? We're not seeing a lot of price reduction. We're seeing a little bit, but we're seeing the market balance back out, and people, especially listing agents, are starting to come with terms to where they should actually be listing, and they're actually able to convey that to their sellers of where to list. So we are seeing, a little bit more opportunity for buyers. Again, it goes back to something we were talking about earlier. It's the creativity. You can't just jump into the market and say, hey, I just want to go buy this house and hope that it works out the right way. You've got to be willing to get creative, maybe even have some concessions, but you got to be willing to be creative in this market, especially to make the deal make sense. Now that works on the residential side, but when we're talking about investment, again, forget all the other stuff. I mean, you do have to think about maintenance, but you can pack those numbers in to your deal when you're calculating, penciling this stuff out. But there are so many ways. If a seller needs to sell a house and it's not, you're right at maybe you're not cash flow positive. Maybe you're just, right there even. maybe, there's something that could sweeten the pot a little bit. Maybe the seller takes a higher asking price and then does some sort of rate buy down or something, to where then now you become cash flow positive, because for the next 30 years, if you do 30, 15, if you do 15, you've got, you're down a point or two, just by having the seller buy some of that off. So yeah, I mean, I think every day that you wait, you're going to lose money, and so there's never a bad time to buy. I think through everything we've seen happen, even in the Nashville real estate market over the last 10 years, even before I was in the real estate industry, we have not seen anybody lose money on a property, right? And just unless it wasn't taken care of, but outside of that, your equity gains are still up, and they're going to remain there.
Yeah, of course. I guess it was 35 years ago. I was able to buy a house, and I was so excited because I was able to get 11.5%.
Right.
That was considered a great deal. And
I
we
think
were excited.
But
I don't know. To me, it's what do we what are people used to? But when it comes down to it, it seems to me you just have to do the math, and how does it fit an individual's budget?
Right.
And sometimes they have to say, well, based on that price and today's interest rate, I got to walk away and look for a little less expensive house, or wait a little while.
Right.
But it can still happen, just at the
Absolutely.
right time for that person to meet.
Yeah, I mean, 5 years ago, I think a first-time home buyer was able to buy their, maybe not their dream home or their forever home, but maybe their second home first, right? Like the affordability was there, and so you could go, well, maybe not 3 years ago, maybe a little bit further back, or I think I said 5, but you could buy your second home as your first property, right, and stay there longer. I think, and we just actually went through these trends with Nashnomics, where we had an economist from NAR actually do a webinar, and looking at the age groups that are purchasing now or buying their second property now. Our national average is 5 to 7 years in a property before somebody goes and sells it. Well, that's jumped to 10 to 15 now. So people bought their homes then, they've stayed in there longer, they've built more equity, which is awesome. But there's a longer period in there. So I think what people have to understand now is, my friend, my friend or my sister or my cousin, they were able to go do that, and they bought a really nice house, and they've been in there for 10 years. Well, we don't have to be in that mindset anymore, especially with the amount of equity that's being built up in houses. Go, especially if you're young and you're single, go buy a duplex, house hack it, get somebody in there to pay your rent, hopefully pay your mortgage, and then 5 years down the road, turn that into a full rental where you've got two people in there paying your mortgage and part of your new mortgage on your new house, right? And so it's just a mindset. It's just a mindset shift that we've got to educate, right? Social media is not going to do it. Mass media is not going to do it. We as the professionals have to be the ones to educate people on that. And that takes getting in front of people and actually having these conversations with them.
I'll tell you a quick story. It seems funny looking back on it. It wasn't funny at the time, but when I was getting married, and I was still in college, and I saw this really cute house for sale near the University of Memphis, and I called the agent, me being bold like I am, and said, would they consider renting it? And he said, no, but you can buy it. I said, you don't understand. I'm a college student. I got a part-time job. He said, $350 down, you can buy it. It was $11,350 for the house. It was 900 square feet, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, and I bought it.
Wow, yeah.
And lived there for 5 years. And I wish it had become a rental property, but I really needed that $5,000 equity towards the next house.
Yeah. Those numbers have changed a little bit over time. Yeah. Yeah. No, but that's awesome. Hey, look, I'm in the same boat. Before I got my real estate license, we owned our last house, and I sold it under to somebody that I knew that they had a little bit more money to put into it and make it a little bit nicer. And to this day, I'm kicking myself in the teeth because, number one, I see the equity, I see the value of it now. It's half a mile from where we live, so I see it all the time. I know what's going on in the neighborhood. But yeah, man, if I had thought through the process of turning that into a rental, I'd have a lot more passive income right now.
Yeah, that's one thing I wish more than anything I would have done in my 20s was house hack or do the buy it, live in it for a year, and then move on to the next and build a portfolio while I was still single and could move and put the time and energy to improving a home while I lived in it for a year. So the folks that are doing that now, ahead of the curve, and it's just awesome. I love to see it.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of trends and social media and all the latest, and this is sort of old news actually, but the wholesaling industry, that's been sort of I want to say a lot of people get their start in wholesaling as in the real estate investing world. You hear of lots of people going from wholesaling to house hacking to building a big portfolio to then getting into syndications. It sort of seems like a very common trend.
Right.
Wholesaling, I'd imagine that's something that you deal with as a residential realtor quite often. What do you try to work with or steer clear of wholesalers?
It depends on the one, right? I've met a few that I definitely don't mind working with, and I've met a few that I would probably turn away from and shy my clients away from. I think the key there, and wholesale, honestly, it's a great start. You don't have to go get a real estate license. You can do these transactions without all the ethics stuff behind it, which is good if you are an ethical person. It's horrible if you're not ethical, right? Because that just leaves the gate open. But I've worked with plenty of them. One of my investors, we bought 2 properties from the same wholesaler, and we've done 2 other deals with other wholesalers. Generally, because we can get the properties way lower than ARV, and they can put minimal amount into it and bring those back up to flip them. And if I had an investor client that again, it goes back to finding the right property for a client, right? If I think it might be an opportunity to go find, I've got somebody who's handy and they don't mind putting in the work, I might go find a wholesaler, to try and take a property off their plate. And then, of course, if I ever have a client who's looking for multiple properties, multiple doors, but maybe they don't have to be attached, then I might, take another opportunity to go talk to a wholesaler and see if they have anything, that they might be willing to work on. Those deals get tough for realtors because they're so skinny that a lot of wholesalers, a lot of people don't want to pay commissions on that sort of stuff. And, I've done deals where there's been minimal commission. I've done deals where it's been a fee instead of commission, simply to get the deal done. Real quick short story. Not a wholesale story, but I literally just closed a $1.2 million transaction for under a 1% fee because I was working with somebody who already found they had the buyer. They needed they had a property that they already had their eye on. The seller needed somebody to represent them, and so it goes back to the right thing for the client. Whether it's a wholesaler, whether it's a property that they're just not offering anything on because the seller's too skinny, we're going to do the right thing. We're going to find the right thing for them.
That's awesome. That's always, hearing people, a real life example of putting your client first and making sure everyone's taken care of. That's always refreshing.
There aren't enough people out there doing it. Not at all.
Yeah, Aaron, this sounds like an interview question, but I'm just curious. Can you describe a time when you had to deal with, say, a difficult client and how you handled that?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you a real short story about a difficult client. I was working with this couple and their adult child and his wife. They said they wanted to work on properties. Every house we went to go look at absolutely needed work. Worst part of town, super far, 45 minutes, an hour and a half drive, which I don't mind doing. But when you get about 20 of those under your belt and they're still not making moves, it starts to get tiring. And so my wife was out of town on a youth trip with my son, and they were heading back in. It was Father's Day weekend. They were heading back in. These people called me up. They're like, "Hey, we got this house. It's like an hour and a half, 2 hours away, but we really think this is the one." I could easily look at MLS photos and tell you it was not the one. And so I just kind of told them, "Hey, look, my wife's heading back in town. She's got something special planned for me. We're just, we're going to hang out and spend Father's Day weekend, together doing whatever we're going to do." And that did not please the lady on the phone. And so she kind of leaned into me a little bit and got the husband on the phone. And he's like, "You're not going to come help and do it." I was like, "Look, guys, I don't think I'm the right realtor for you." That's one thing about me. My time is my time, and I don't let people run my time. You can't run a successful business if you do that. And so that real quick on that one, just had to fire them. They were gone. Back November, December of 2021. This has nothing to do with investment or wholesaling. This was just a traditional sale and purchase transaction. But had a client that was under contract on a new build, so we had a little extra time. Decided to go ahead and list their house, got it on the market, and had, of all people, a realtor and her fiance, lender, that put an offer on the property. And 2 weeks after we get under contract, the lender switched companies. Didn't tell anybody, and it's not necessarily a horrible thing because it's within the same industry, but was kind of notorious for doing stuff like this. And so I didn't get any information on it. All I got was an email that had an amendment to the contract saying we're closing 2 weeks later than when we were supposed to close. Try to call them up, get nothing for a day or two. So finally was able to have a conversation with my client. They were like, "No, we're not going to do that." And we're kind of a little ticked off. We feel a little bit taken advantage of because he's in the industry doing his own loan, right? They were both transacting the purchase themselves. So 2 weeks later, or we finally come to an agreement on the negotiations, and it was for, if we do not close with this 2 week extension, then you guys are relinquishing the $5,000 earnest money. They agreed to it. Everything's fine and dandy. Fast forward a month, since we're 2 weeks off, we were supposed to close in 30, ended up 45. Day before closing, I get a call from my transaction coordinator. She's like, "Hey, so there's no title company to reach out to. The lender, they never submitted their contract to title." I was like, "What are you talking? It's a lender and a realtor buying it. Of course they did." Come to find out, they didn't. They, in the back of their heads, were planning all this stuff out. And it was a newer realtor, and she was just like, "Well, I'm kind of just letting him do it all." I was like, "Yeah, but he's a lender. Like, you are the agent. Like, we got to figure this out." Clients were completely ticked off and out of my control, right? I mean, there's not much we can do there. So we, finally negotiated to like, okay, you got essentially 24 hours. We're closing tomorrow. You guys have to find a title company, get this thing underwritten fully, do the checks on liens and everything for title clearance, get all that stuff done. Good luck, 24 hours or we're taking the $5,000 and we're walking. So next day, I think we were closing at 3 o'clock. They were supposed to close at 3:30, 4, somewhere in there. 4 o'clock comes around. We're still hanging out at the title company. Nothing, no phone call. They didn't they were there. I think they were actually closing somewhere else, but called the title company. No, they're not here. I was like, okay. So maybe 15, 20 minutes after we finish closing, get a call from them. They're like, "Look, we can't do it today. It's going to be another week. We got to get, this, that, and the other together." I was like, "Nah, this isn't going to happen." Luckily, my clients were able to close on their purchase and still hold the property on the market. And so come to find out, the title company never notified us, but the $5,000 earnest money check bounced. So there goes all of our leverage. We've got nothing there. So title company was fired. We moved on to a different title company right after that. But just horrendous. And again, this is why, everybody that I work with is not perfect, but this is why I work with the people that I work with. I try to get, there's plenty of, RESPA laws and everything in place that don't allow us to pinpoint, a particular lender or title company, but I do make suggestions for that fact, because I know that they're going to be communicative. I know that they're going to, let us know when stuff goes wrong. But yeah, so that was, God, you want to talk about like bubble guts, man. Trying to have that conversation with my client, the night we were supposed to be closed, or the night before we were supposed to close, it was rough. It was one of those that I just kind of, had to put it off, had to pray over it a little bit. Finally got the guts to call. And man, I tell you what, just because of the communication that I had with my client, I thought they were going to fire me instantly. Didn't fire me, got total grace from their side. End up going back on the market. 2 weeks later, we get an offer. We sell it for $62,000 more than we were supposed to sell it for. So, wow. Yeah, it was a really rough go, but a killer ending. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a roller coaster.
Yeah,
that's wild. I was curious. I'm glad you filled us in on their reaction, because I was like, yep. Man, how do you navigate that? And communication.
Yeah,
I think that's all you can do.
Communication and making sure to take a break, right? In the real estate world, nothing has to get done in the next 2 hours. As soon as I got that phone call at 4 o'clock, I was actually out checking on one of my investors' flips, and as soon as I got that call, I was like, man, I got to call her, and I was like, yeah, you know what? Let me take a break. Let me think about this. Let me think through it.
Breathe.
And yeah, I mean, because your mind is a mess when stuff like that comes up, and you really just got to take yourself out of it, put yourself to the side.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Well, you sound like a really busy guy with clients. You have a wife,
not busy,
2 kids.
Productive. I'm productive.
I was going to say, one thing that I always strive to try to do well, and I'm a work in progress, is time management. How do you manage time? How do you make sure that you're there for your family and you're there for your client?
Scheduling, man. There's absolutely no other way to do it. In our industry, we call it time blocking, but I think it goes even further than that. One thing that I always had stuff that I would put on the calendar, and because I didn't have enough on there, it didn't force me to look at it every day. And so I hired a coach last year, and I mean that was a big saving grace. It was coming right off of COVID stuff. My mind was in a whirlwind. I was like, man, what am I going to do? So I hired a coach to just kind of get back to square one and get some more knowledge under my belt. And a lot of what we went over was just the scheduling and time blocking. So I have everything from first thing when I wake up, I've got my prayer time, my journal time, my meditation time, and then it's like breakfast with the kids, and I've got all this stuff on my calendar. But it forced me to, when somebody asked me if I had the time to do A, B, or C, it forced me to look at my calendar, because every hour of my day from the time I woke up to the time I went to sleep was time blocked. There was something in it. And so, I think if you don't create accountability with yourself and you don't get into that structure, there's absolutely no way that you can do it all. There's no way that we can do it all anyway. But there's absolutely no way, that you can do it with a clear mind all the time, because you're constantly thinking, oh, what have I got? What did I forget? What have I got going on? What do the kids have going on? What does Courtney have going on? And that takes me to, I've heard it all throughout my career in sales, but Stephen Covey, talks about the big rock theory. And so, it's my faith, my family, those are my big rocks. Those go in first. All that stuff gets scheduled first. Then my pebbles are my, active clients that I'm trying to actively stay on top of, make sure that stuff's getting done. And I have a wonderful transaction coordinator. She does an amazing job. So a lot of times I'm able to kind of push that stuff on her. But then the other stuff, not that prospecting is not important, but I think I was always taught, man, but hit the phones all day. Like, you should be on the phones all day. And our world just doesn't work that way anymore. And so now even the little, the sand that I'm pouring in on top of all the rocks, a lot of that is automated email and text. It allows you to spread yourself more thin without any extra effort. So yeah, just fill the calendar up.
That's awesome. Yeah, I live by the calendar myself. I'm hoping that once my 7-month-old starts letting me sleep, that I can start doing some good morning routines to throw in there.
Yeah, it's tough when they're young.
One day.
Yeah. 15 and 10, man, they're self-sufficient. It's awesome. You're going to love it.
Can't wait.
Well, Aaron, we appreciate you sharing your knowledge and some great stories. And would you please tell our audience again what area you serve and how they can contact you?
Yeah, so I serve the entire Middle Tennessee area. There's really not an area that I don't go into or won't go into for the right client. Per my story earlier, there are clients that I won't go to certain areas for. But no, I touch all of Middle Tennessee. I think that allows me, especially for my investor clients, it allows me to get a little bit more knowledgeable by doing research on properties or going out to visit properties. Allows me to gain a little bit more knowledge about those areas because I think, especially in the investment world, it would be awesome if all your investment properties were within a 1 square mile area of where you live. Does that happen? Not at all. So you've got to know those areas, know what is investable for your clients, or what's even livable for your clients, but really know what's investable, because whether they're going to live in it or they're just using it as an investment, it is an investment. So it is about equity gain at the end of the day, right?
Awesome.
Well, we thank you. And Doug knew you. I didn't know you, but I'm getting a sense of you now. And what I like best about you is the spirituality that I see. And you just seem like a great person that's really centered. And if I decide to move to Tennessee, I want you to be my agent.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, you wanna tell everyone how to contact you?
Yep. Probably easiest and best is just send me a text. Cell phone number is 901-606-1747. You can email me at aaron@paynepropertygroup.com. And then, of course, I'm on Facebook, on Instagram. You can hit me up on Messenger. If you're old-fashioned, you can send me a letter. You can find the address on my website. So.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it, Aaron.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
Connecting again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching the Passive Income Power Podcast. We hope you gained wealth building insights. I will ask you to do 3 things to help us serve you best. Go to our website at 2dinvestments.com, click on Investors Club, and fill out the basic information to have timely access to new offerings. 2, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And 3, feel free to set up a call with Doug or Mickey through our website. We would love to help you find your personal superpower.